So we turned right up Greek Street, didn't we? And the Gay Hussar at number two, which opened in 1953, and it was a restaurant that became known as the haunt of left-wing politicians such as Tony Benn, Roy Hattersley, Michael Foot, Tom Dryburgh, who apparently was a bit of a cottager. I'm adding
Tom
that.
Driver.
He's a left-wing politician. He was a bit of a cottager. He's supposed to have
You
some
just
kind
made
of
that up.
no, no, because I
Oh,
came across him before because he was supposed to have some kind of run-in with Aleister Crowley or something, but I can't remember all the details. As well as Eisenhower and the Queen of Siam used to go there. Its golden age was the late 60s when Dryburgh, a suspected Soviet spy, tried to persuade Mick Jagger and his girlfriend Marianne Marsbar Faithfull to help target young people for Labour. But Mick Jagger was having none of it, and the encounter came to nothing. Jagger's always been about the money, anyway, hasn't he? He's always been about the
sorry.
money. Jagger, he's never really been a hippie, old Jagger. I didn't think so.
It's funny. I thought you were gonna. I thought you said left wingers have always been about money because today I saw this article about Jeremy Corbyn's family home that he always referred to as a old farmhouse. Well, it was Ivy Manor, I think it was called, this mansion that belonged to something or other as part of his estate. So anyway, all these left wingers are always pull the ladder up after themselves.
They do say that, yeah. Like these revolutions get so far, and then as soon as the middle class have got their toilet roll and bread, it's like, oh no, that's enough now. But also right wing people do claim that as well, that they're the left are the most materialistic. You know, with their trying to. I mean, I'm an atheist myself, but you know, if they're trying to like get rid of God and all this sort of business, and just focusing on the purely material, whereas the right tend to have a strong sort of religious, you know, kind of bent. Uh, Here
Yeah.
we are. Simon's coming. Anything to add to what I said just then?
What, me?
Yeah, or Richard.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's that. I mean, I used to think of myself as a left winger, not that I mean, I had friends who were not, but I just hate the left of the passion so much. There's been so many of them around me in the last few years, and they all hate each other. I find that the most funny thing. The anarchists, the different communist groups, the Momentum Labour, the Blairite, um, Progress Labour lot, they all hate each other. I mean, they hate each other, and they always try and they're always lecturing me, and I just
uh,
want nothing to do with them and try and
Simon.
recruit you.
Hello.
It's
Yep.
horrible.
Can hear.
Hello,
We can.
Simon.
Hi.
Can you see us all?
Yes, I can.
Anyway, so the gang's all here. We were just talking about the Gay Hussar. We've done that, and now we're gonna.
Is there
We're
anything
gonna
historic happened there? Any deals done, or you don't know?
I was just telling you about how Tom Dryburgh who was a suspected Soviet spy, tried to persuade Mick Jagger.
Well, that failed. So,
Yeah, that
is there
failed. Yeah,
any successful ones?
he doesn't say. So next door was the House of Saint Barnabas, which on the side of was everybody's favourite thing. The
Penny slot.
the penny
Penny
slot.
tube.
Yeah. So let's.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So we're in Soho Square now. We've gone up to Soho Square,
There
and
been all piss down there, and they must have done.
I
There
want
must-
to. I want to know. I want to know what's on the other side. I want to go inside and see where the money comes out.
How are you going to do that?
Knock on the door. So I've come to inspect your tubes.
Well, you're going to need to have some kind of card to flash. You know.
Yeah, tube inspector.
So the House of St Barnabas is for women that have got, astray. They're poor,
Yeah.
and it still does that to this day. 3 of its rooms can be hired for events. Blah blah blah. Then he talks about the skirts, and then okay. So then we're in oh yes. Now we go on to Soho Square, and we look out for the unique penny chute attached to railings alongside the House of St Barnabas that has been used to receive charitable donations for over 100 years.
So this was what, unmarried mothers, for example. My grandmother was born in a unmarried mother's house in Chelsea, which is still there. The administrative building is still there, opposite the town hall, with some sort of blab on, but it's all very quite slightly innuendo what it's for. Well, I think quite a few of these things years ago, sort of turn of the century and earlier.
Well, this is what we found out on the A. To your point about Chelsea, there's a Chelsea walk, so that might come up.
Oh,
B,
okay.
yeah. B, back in the day, they didn't have charity. There was a thing called philanthropy.
Yeah.
You had philanthropists.
I'd like to know what the biggest donation that's ever been shoved down that tube.
You sound very authoritative. Is that what you're going to say to them when they let you in on your checklist? You need a clipboard. You will need a clipboard and something to hang around your neck to flash.
I'd like to roll like a few like gold ingots down there.
Well, you need to get a couple first, don't you?
Yeah.
So that's your first mission, is to get that. So Soho Square. Why did everybody love this one? This particular Simon, for instance, this is your favourite of the whole tour. Why?
Well, it's up there. I think it's because one of the main reasons is that I had absolutely no knowledge of that. It's completely new to me, and it's just a funny little thing that I had no idea it was there. So it's like I found it quite fascinating.
Yeah, when you've been running around London for as long as we have.
Yeah, it's like something new that you've never seen.
Richard, you had no idea of it either, did you? And you've been in London the longest.
Yeah. I've been to that corner and lots of times, and things have happened on that corner, and I never knew that thing existed there.
What do you mean things have happened? What are you talking about?
Like on that corner by that sign, I introduced Laurie Love to Vivienne Westwood.
You introduced who?
Laurie Love,
Who's Laurie Love?
a person that was accused of hacking the Pentagon, the Federal Reserve, and the White House.
Okay.
Wow.
What's happened to that one?
He got off.
He got off. This is when Richard was hanging around with Class War. Daniel,
God.
imagining that somehow hanging around with Class War would make him rich.
Well, what's her face? The main woman in Class War, married or with Ian Bone's partner. I mean, she owns a nice big house.
Yeah, they're a bunch of fakes.
They all have really nice houses.
They're fake. They're fake as fuck.
They asked me to join, funnily enough, and I said, "Well, I thought you're an anarchist group. You didn't have to join."
Okay, so Soho Square. It was laid out in the 1680s, and then Charles II. Statue in the middle of the square dates from 1681. Blah blah blah. And then here we go. Time to change the picture.
Who's making all the rumbling noises?
I think it's Simon.
I'm not making any noise at all.
Oh, it must be Daniel's fan. But we
should
can't.
I turn it off?
No, not if you're going to sweat it out. Not if you're going to be in horrible pain.
Well, it's quite quiet. Shall I just turn it off and see if it makes a difference?
Yeah.
No,
Thank
hang
you.
on. Right off.
Ah, that's made a huge difference.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if you get too hot, Daniel, you know what to do, don't you?
Yeah, don't worry.
So here we are at McCartney Penis Linda Productions.
Nice bit of wood.
It is. It is. Do you think it's the original wood from back in the day?
No, I think it's a little pastiche.
Really? When did he build it? That was from the McCartney first came. He came to the Square in the 1970s when he was in Wings. Only the band the Beatles could have been. Nobody. I keep saying that joke, but nobody. That's a pure Partridge.
It's a shit joke. That's why.
It's Partridge. It's Partridge. The basement contains an exact replica of EMI Studio Number 2, the legendary venue at EMI's Abbey Road Studios where the Beatles recorded. And also, this is the same place where he installed William Burroughs and Anthony Balk to make the cut-up movies, so famed for beatnikism and stuff like that. So,
Are they the classic ones? With Brian Geisen?
yes.
Right.
Yeah. They weren't filmed there, but they were all cut and edited there, and yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So there's that. And I love this, that underneath the square are a number of secret underground tunnels and shelters that were last used to protect Londoners during the Blitz. And we were saying that they should bloody open those up.
Yeah.
Good.
Could make a lot of money,
You know what they were originally built for?
Yes, I just said, to protect Londoners during the Blitz.
Oh, so it was just for the Second World War.
Yes.
Oh,
According to
okay.
this guy.
It doesn't say how many. It doesn't say how many there are.
No, he just says a number.
Interesting. I'd like to know.
Yeah. Yes. Well, if this podcast gets popular, maybe we'll be able to arrange with the council to go down there
Yeah.
somehow. I wonder where you enter them from. I haven't seen.
Someone must know. There must be someone who knows.
Yeah, someone must know. Someone. You could open a new Blitz club down there, couldn't you, Richard? Yeah.
That would be awesome. It would be.
And then we went to that time to change the picture. French Protestant Church.
The Huguenots.
The Huguenots, yes. So that's the French Protestant Church. There was a marriage happening when we went there. It was completed in 1893. The architect was Sir Aston Webb. He's best known for the Victoria and Albert Museum. In the 19th century, London had around 30 French Huguenot churches. The primary one was in Threadneedle Street. However, the French congregation was already dwindling by 1841, when the church in Threadneedle Street was demolished to make way for the Royal Exchange. Only 3 Huguenot churches remained. Blah blah blah. The Huguenot influence on Soho after decades of assimilation has largely disappeared. However, this church is a rare legacy and services are still conducted in French. So there you go. And then we moved on to...
Just wait a minute.
Sorry.
What the Huguenots, who were they? Weavers, praying weavers or something.
Yeah, who were the Huguenots? Anybody know?
They were French. Yeah, they were French, like weavers, I think.
But religious as well.
Doctor Who.
But they were very religious as well. I think we come to why they were being persecuted in France and had to come here a little bit later. So let's hold on for that. And then we went to Mary Seacole, who was the rival the black lady that was a rival from Jamaica, that was the nurse that was apparently the rival of Florence Nightingale, and this is the first bit in this tour where suddenly you feel a bit askance at the writer, because why would you call her, rivals? You're trying to start something, aren't you? You're trying to start trouble.
Yeah, it's exactly what they're doing. He's doing. I can't remember. Somebody said it might have been Simon that they would not have even known each other or rubbed shoulders with each other.
Yeah, but he's inventing this like false narrative whether they were they were after each other's prizes.
Yeah, it's horrible. Actually, it's just division, and I don't think he'd even say that if she wasn't black. It's just this, trying to cause this bloody division.
He says it's a pity her work has not been more widely recognised, and yet she's in the book. She's got a blue plaque. I mean, okay, she's not on, she's not on a bloody pound note or whatnot, but I don't know.
I've heard of Mary Seacole. I didn't quite know what she. Something do. I think I sort of vaguely some sort of nursing or something in the Victorian times. It was no more than that. Something very vague. But I've definitely heard of her name, and her name's really well known.
I had as well, to be honest. I had heard something on Woman's Hour once when I listened to that. But anyway, she lived to a ripe old age, I guess, for the times, 1805 to 1881. So that's not bad. That's not a bad innings. Then we went to St. Patrick's Church. I don't know if I've got any. Let's have a look if I've got photos of that. And we went inside there, didn't we? I haven't been inside a church in fucking years, But, I think Daniel and Bonnie insisted that we go in. Any comments about it, Daniel?
Very effete statue of Christ, looking, like Kenneth Williams. Just very, very limp.
Well, that's because he's just been fucking dragged down from the cross or something, isn't it? Or you'd look a bit limp if you've been hanging on a cross for fucking.
Very effete.
You'd look very effete if you'd been hanging on a cross for forever. But they had different forms of crucifixes back in the day. Some of them were like X-shaped, weren't they? Some of them were X-shaped, and
this little statue was very somebody's idea, well, not my idea of erotic, but you can see it's like this beautiful young man, very.
I quite liked the quietness inside the church. I haven't. There's a special kind of quietness, isn't there, inside of these churches? Apart from in the basement where the children scream.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm a sort of atheist agnostic. I don't think of. I just don't think of God or anything like that because I just don't. I don't believe it. But, it's.
No, but I love going into churches. I don't think it doesn't matter whether you're religious or not. It's just like if you're going into one of those spaces just because it's been set aside for, higher thinking. I think it doesn't matter whether you're religious or not. It's good to go in there.
I agree, and I went into a church near where my mother lives, in the sticks. Beautiful ancient thing, and it was a wonderful feeling of peace.
Have you read, that poem by Philip Larkin, Church Going?
No, but I need to look it up. I quite like Larkin, but I don't know much about him.
Oh, that's a really good one because it's exactly his take on it. He's not religious at all. But he goes there anyway just to sort of soak in the ambience.
It's very true. It's particularly living in London, and I find it a very stressful city. It's got increasingly stressful as I get older. And,
Last time I went into a church was on a Sunday morning at about 10 o'clock. I was trying to find somewhere quiet to sort of come down off of this ketamine. but it was full of religious types doing their Sunday morning service, and I could only bear it for about 10 minutes.
You're probably in a similar kind of frame of mind as they were. You know, it's a similar sort of thing.
How were your legs? Could you feel them?
I had to run out. I couldn't deal with it. They looked so pleased to see me, and I felt so bad when I just had to run, because I was like, no, not today, not today, Jesus.
I think like really religious people, like they get a kick out of it. It's like a drug for them, going to church.
Oh, sure, yeah, I believe that. I believe that, especially the ones where they swing all the incense around, you know.
Yeah.
I remember that thing that we went to, you and I, Simon, at the IMT gallery where they were doing incense. And when you were in the room, you kind of were high off the incense. But as soon as you walked out of the room into the fresh air, it kind of went.
Was that the thing with the boiled eggs? Were they boiling eggs?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, that was that. We've done that. Oh, no, this is interesting though, wasn't it? The church stands on the site of Carlisle House, where in the 1760s the flamboyant Venetian opera singer and courtesan Teresa Connolly's hosted extravagant masked balls and other entertainments that became Eyes Wide Shut, that became the highlights of London's social calendar. Her occasional lover, Casanova, also visited her during his brief stay in London. And somebody was saying that Donald Sutherland, of all people, had played Casanova.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but it'd be interesting to see that.
I'm still here, so I'm just trying to make some more light, so talk amongst yourselves for a moment.
Has anyone seen that film with Donald Sutherland as Casanova?
Yeah, Fellini film.
Huh?
I think it's a Fellini film.
Oh right, no, yeah, I haven't seen it.
With Nino wrote the music.
Who wrote the
Maybe I
music?
got it wrong. Nino
Who wrote-
Rota.
Nino Rota. I think there's a black and white Casanova film that I saw like ages ago, but I haven't seen the Donald Sutherland one.
Definitely passed me by, both of them.
Have you seen Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah.
Daphne du Maurier.
Yeah, it's great.
Watched it not too long ago, actually.
It's by the same guy that did Performance. Have you seen
Nick
Performance?
Rowe.
Yeah. He also did that film Walkabout. Have you seen that Walkabout?
Jenny Railway
Jenny-
Children.
Jenny Agassi, yeah. And he also did the Man Who Fell to Earth as well.
Nick Rogue?
Yeah.
He made a Casanova film?
No, we're talking about Donald Sutherland is in Don't Look Now, which is also by Nick Rogue.
Yeah.
You're about twice as loud as everyone else.
That's better for you, Richie.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that better for everybody else? Can you all hear me?
I can hear you fine.
You sound fine.
Okay. So, but what, apart from being a big, swordsman of the, downstairs variety, what exciting happened in Casanova's life? What did he do? What happened in the film?
Don't know. I can't remember.
No, the music carried the film.
All right. Okay. Well, let's move on then. Next, we found ourselves at number 18 Greek Street, which was the. Can anybody remember?
The Establishment?
Karl Marx.
Richard got it right. The Establishment. Well done, Richard.
Yeah.
Very well done. Very well done. Okay, so this was the Establishment Club. It was at the centre of the satirical comedy movement that became influential in the early 60s, ironically titled. The club was always controversial given its founder Peter Cook's desire to create something, and he quotes, where we could be more outrageous than we could be on stage, Dudley, you fucking cunt. I added that. Because of Derek and Clive, obviously. Uh, in 19... In Ricky, Ricky liked that one. In 1963, the Home Secretary banned American comedian Lenny Bruce from performing at the club because he used the F word. You know, he was one of the first. I'm going to F and blind and say the N word and everything. You know, he didn't care. He didn't care.
So he was banned from coming into Britain. The same fuck.
He was banned from performing at the club.
Okay.
And I mean, he was banned all over America as well. He had a terrible. He had a not, I don't know, say stratospheric rise to the top, but he became very big, and then as soon as he was big, he got smashed. You know, for using the F word and the N word and stuff like this. You know, I mean, he was a left winger of the time. You know, but one of the old school left wingers. You know what I mean? So, but
There's absolutely no group was free from his acerbic wit,
yes, of course. Yeah,
which is good, isn't it?
yeah, of course.
When there's a hierarchy and you can target that group, but you can't I'd just rather it all equally across the board. I think
Well,
Joan Rivers was a big fan, wasn't she?
oh, yeah, she must have been. I mean, now they try to say in comedy, oh, no punching down, no punching down, but this is ridiculous. Comedy should punch everywhere and anywhere because to you, he might, if he's punching down say I don't know, a bank robber, to you that might be punching down, depending on your position. But there might be somebody even poorer than that bank robber who's thinking, well, I never robbed a bank. So in fact, that's punching up. You know what I mean? So it's all this kind of like you can't punch down, you know, and all of this. It's bollocks.
Yeah, I go along with that.
But anyway, despite Lenny Bruce not doing very well, the club did host performers such as Barry Humphries, aka Dame Edna Everage, who my dad despised.
Oh, genius!
I tried telling that to my dad. He hated her more than he hated Kenny Everett, and that's saying something, you know.
I've got a record. I've got a record, and it's recorded live at the Establishment. It's Frankie Howard.
You were saying,
Yeah, because it's like Peter Cook like rediscovered Frankie Howard was kind of like it kind of it's fallen out of favour really in the entertainment world, but Peter Cook put him back on at the Establishment, and he had like a new lease of life as like a sort of cult figure.
is this a vinyl record?
Yeah,
Does he say "titty ye not"?
it's kind of got. He's still got some of that left in his act, but it's more sort of. It's trying to be a bit more current.
My dad did like Up Pompeii. That was
That's great. I love it.
It was saucy, wasn't it?
Well, he was an early advocate of LSD therapy. Do you know that, Frankie Howard?
Really?
Yeah, he was suffered from really bad depression. He was one of the first people in England to be treated with LSD.
Well, he said it worked.
Yeah, he said it was really good. Cary Grant as well. He was like a real advocate for it.
Yeah, I'd heard of Cary Grant. Yeah, I'd heard, but I hadn't.
Yeah, Frankie Howard as well.
Oh, fascinating. Excellent. Um, so, and in this same building, on the in 1963, upstairs, Christine Keeler did the famous naked backwards on a chair. Yeah. Apparently, she didn't want to do it, but they pushed her to do it as a kind of because there was a film being made. Producer of the film. She was a dancer.
She was naked backwards.
The chair was covering her tits.
That's
Oh.
just Richard doing his thing. He likes to play the old man with the ear horn. You know. Yeah, so that was photographed up there. She didn't want to do it, but having done it, it did make her, very, very famous. Then we went to number 47 Greek Street, where the world famous 18th century romancer, it calls him here, Casanova. He only lived from what's 25? What's 98 minus 25? That's come on, guys. That's 70. 73. That's not too bad, is it? 73 for a syphilitic kind of monster.
Yeah.
He lived at 47 Greek Street for several months in 1764. Usually associated with Venice rather than Soho, Casanova nevertheless immersed himself in London society. Casanova had previously fathered an illegitimate child by the lady we heard of earlier, Teresa Cornelis. And he arrived in Soho after escorting another of Cornelis' children to London. So that must have happened outside of London, and I wouldn't have. Anyway, whatever. And then Casanova left England following several brushes with the law. I wonder what having run up debts, and he contracted venereal disease, typical frog. Yeah.
Wasn't he Italian?
Wow, same difference. All fucking from over there. Brexit! No, sorry. I'm joking.
Is this a pro-Brexit group then? Podcast.
We are apolitical. We are free thinkers. Anybody can come in. Well, not anybody, but
You know what we forgot to do at the beginning? We haven't done our chosen pronouns at the beginning. We're supposed to declare them, introduce ourselves and our.
I prefer concrete nouns. Concrete nouns crush pronouns. Dog, cat, tree, bear. Then we went to Greek Street. Was also home to the literary critic Thomas de Quincey. He didn't live very long. Well, I don't know. Actually, no, 1785 to 1859. That's not too bad for back then. Whose book Confessions of an English Opium Eater. Has anybody here taken pure opium? I have. It was amazing.
I have. Yeah, I've had some.
It was so fucking trippy. It was wonderful.
I like to try some. I've never had pure.
Oh,
I was just I found it very mellow. It's like smoking a hash or something.
I was in a club and it just made the lasers just wonderful. I mean, maybe it just relaxed me enough to sort of see things a little bit in that Blakean way, if the doors of perception are cleansed, He was the first to properly deal with the subject of drug addiction. In it, he describes arriving in Soho as a poor teenager and squatting at number 38, where he was shocked. He was a squatter, where he was shocked to discover a 10-year-old girl living alone. He later befriended a young prostitute named Anne, who saved his life when he fell seriously ill. One day in Soho's Golden Square, which we get to later, he said goodbye to Anne before leaving on a short trip out of London, returning to find that she had disappeared. Despite his desperate searches, he never found her again.
It's Casanova.
No, that's Thomas de Quincey, who also wrote Suspiria de Profundis, which Dario Argento's classic horror movie Suspiria is very, very, very loosely based on.
Last film that Joan Bennett made.
Suspiria?
Mm.
And what did she play in it?
She played the head mistress, the almost witchy-looking character.
Okay, and what else would I know Joan Bennett from?
She was Constance Bennett's sister. She was in a load of Hollywood films. She's in that thing with Elizabeth Taylor and Spencer Tracy. about the family and Elizabeth Taylor's The Bride. Loads of big Hollywood films. Oh, she did all those Secret Behind the Door. She was in that with Michael Redgrave. It's quite not bad actually. I forget the name of the director, really famous director. She did a whole load of films with him in the 40s. Supernaturally weirdy things.
So
Secret Beyond the Door, good.
she did a lot of sort of horror-y stuff.
Not really. I mean, she was a mainstream big Hollywood film star, sort of 30s, 40s. In fact, I think her first Hollywood films were in the late 20s. I think she even got in the end of the silent period. But she was really big. I mean, she was one of the really big names that lasted a long time.
Okay, cool. Now we go to the Coach and Horses, but I need to make some more light suddenly. So talk amongst yourselves. Coach and Horses, not what it used to be, he says here in the book. In the book.
Have you ever been?
Do you know if I close this momentarily and return, will it be when I just come back as it is?
You should do, yes.
Okay, I'm just going to try it now.
We did a Coach and Horses that was a gay pub for a while in the late 80s.
Richard?
Not that I know of, no.
So which was the pub that was just off Old Compton Street at the Cambridge Circus end?
The one with Dennis Nielsen.
Load of Rent Boys.
Golden
Golden
something.
Lion? Golden Lion? The Golden Lion?
I don't think it was Golden Lion. Maybe it was.
It was really funny.
I'm back.
The Golden Lion. Do you remember that? You're not that much younger than me, are you?
I think the Golden Lion is.
But you're actually not that young. Golden Lion.
I am nearly 50. The Golden Lion is slightly before my time, I think.
I only got the tail end of it. I do remember it.
But is that where Dennis Nielsen used to go? Is it, Richie? That's a bit of horrible. Yeah. That's a bit of horrible history, isn't it? Doesn't make it.
Do it on the tour and find out some more details about it. This is all Rent Boy pub.
It was a Rent Boy pub, wasn't it?
But this is supposed to be a semi-family friendly tour. If we're doing the horror tour of, Dennis Nielsen, what a monster! He's still alive, isn't he?
No, he's dead now.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, good riddance, to be honest. I would have been one of his, types.
But you wouldn't have been
to keep him company.
Going back in.
I don't want to keep him company. You can fuck off. Who's keeping me company? You guys are tonight. So, well,
he killed company, didn't he?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at, Rich. I know the jokes. So, Coach and Horses, it's one of those pubs. It's full of, it became very, its whole thing is based off the 1950s, isn't it? With Bacon, etc., all falling in and out of there, pissed out of their faces,
Coach and Horses, the pub that has around the edge of the bar, the bit you can piss in, like a little trough built into the floor. Like it's a tiled floor, but there's a little screen bit, so you could just piss at the bar.
Oh.
It's either Coach and Horses or the French House, and I'm pretty certain it's the Coach and Horses. It's either one of those two.
It's not the French House, I don't think.
I think it must be the Coach and Horses, and in that case, he's missed that out of the book as well. Like a little,
trough.
Channel, it's like all the way around. There's like a tile bit with a trough.
At what height is it? On the floor, or is it halfway up?
Floor. No, it's on the floor. It's on the floor, so you can just stand there and piss. I mean, that's what it was. That's what it was obviously
I want
not
to. I need to
now.
see this. I need to see this.
But I'm trying to
Look,
pinpoint
I've
it
never
out
needed.
20 years ago.
Every time I've been in a pub or a club, I have never needed a trough to allow me to just stand there and fucking piss. I just do it wherever I fucking want.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, it's kind of where it would catch your piss if you did do that, because it is on the floor.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is I will fact check that when we finished, and then if it's true, then I'll get the bit of text and I'll post it up at this point when we're talking. You know.
I'm pretty certain it has. It's obviously the interior of the pub is original from when it was built.
So there were gangsters that went in there, the Craze, Billy Hill, and Jack the Spot, various Jewish, Maltese, and Albanian mafiosi. They controlled the clip joints, pornography shops, and brothels that made Soho the centre of London's sex industry. Corrupt local policemen largely turned a blind eye to what went on, encouraging a high degree of tolerance that inadvertently benefited London's homosexual community and turned Soho into an enclave of unorthodoxy within austere post-war Britain. The most extreme elements of Soho have been cleaned up since the 1970s, haven't they, Rich?
Yeah.
There was a clean up Soho thing going on back in the 80s and 90s, I remember.
Well, Richard arrived there in, not to dox him, you know, that means give out your address, but, you know, you've been in Soho, Richard, since 1981.
81. Yeah.
And your rent hasn't gone up, has it?
Yeah, it has.
Really?
Yeah.
But
But
not-
the landlord has to go to the council to ask permission to put it up.
Coach and Horses was the favourite place of Geoffrey Barnard, a journalist, columnist. Vodka was his favourite tipple. He used to get so drunk that it often resulted in the Spectator magazine having to cancel his low-life column with the excuse that Geoffrey Barnard is unwell. And there was later a play.
There's a really good documentary on you can get on YouTube about Geoffrey Bernard. It's worth watching it. He goes around all these places.
Okay, I may have watched it because I did go through a period of being, you know, reading up on all that sort of 50s Soho thing.
Yeah, it's worth watching because there's a bit where he goes in one of the pubs and Tom Baker's in there. He starts chatting with Tom Baker.
Well, apparently Tom Baker was a regular in all these haunts.
Well, yeah, because he used to work. They used to do like voiceovers for adverts and stuff. They'd do it all in Soho. It was like, yeah, he'd go and do some recording for like doing voiceovers for adverts, and then he'd go and go to the Colony Rooms.
Was he a Huguenot?
No, John Pertwee was though. John Pertwee was a Huguenot. He was a Huguenot.
Who's your favourite Doctor?
Mine.
Huh.
Yeah, Tom Baker probably.
Nah, it's got to be Hartnell. The first.
He hardly did any. He didn't do many.
Yeah, well, that's what makes him so classic. You know?
I couldn't watch those ones when I was a kid though, because it was all black and white. I found it boring.
Wow.
Boring. I was terrified.
What, the black and white ones?
Yeah, with William Hartnell.
Yeah, it's a bit too early for me. I remember my first one that I really kind of connected with was Tom Baker.
Troughton doesn't get enough love.
Yeah, well, and then again, you know, I didn't really see any full episodes of him.
There's all shit now, though. As soon as they got that Peter Davison from All Creatures Great and Small, it was like, hi, I'm out.
Oh, that was yeah. And then the guy after him was even worse. The guy after him was even worse, I think.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. But mind you, one of the young ones, the recent ones, he lives around here, near me. We used to see him in Jimmy's. Yeah. Good looking guy. Quite, you know, strapping lad. Anyway, then he goes on about Maison Berthaud. I don't really care about Maison Berthaud. And then we went down Romilly Street to Kettner's Restaurant, which which was a haunt of Oscar Wilde and his lover Bosie, Lord Alfred Douglas. And
Where I used to have my club down there when I first started it in Romilly Street, number 23.
what was your club called?
Dysfunctional Dandy used to do it with some guy back then. I went and did it alone.
How long did it run for? About a year.
3 years.
3 years? That's a good run.
Yeah, not bad.
Also in Kettner's, according to our friend. No. Anyway, according to him, Princess Diana was regularly found naked on a bloody piano up there.
Oh, yeah.
In Kettner's. Pleasure seeking. Then we went up
Yeah,
to.
the Vauxhall Tavern.
Pardon me.
She used to go to the Vauxhall Tavern with Kenny Everett and Freddie Mercury and who was the
Elton.
Greek woman, very glamorous woman who was on the Kenny Everett show.
Ah.
Cleo Rokos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met her in Waitrose in Canary Wharf.
Oh, well, I met her as well at the Vauxhall Tavern. She was really charming. Was she nice to you?
Well, she was promoting this vodka. She was like hawking this vodka.
Oh, right, okay.
Did you get a kiss off of her, Simon?
No,
No.
she was just, she was just trying to flog this vodka, really.
She was the only reason my dad allowed Kenny Everett on in the house, to be honest with you. Then we went up to old Compton Street, named ironically after the Bishop of London, Henry Compton. You know, to see what Sodom and Gomorrah it turned into. That it was named after a bishop, the Bishop of London, Henry Compton. But why was it named after him? That's what I want to know. I mean, why? Oh, we'll just name it, out of the blue. Oh, we'll just name it after you. I mean, whose pocket was he filling to get a street named after him? You know what I mean? That's interesting, but it's not covered in the book. Then he goes on about Wheeler's Restaurant, a fish restaurant, Bacon and Co. all in there. And that's where the Duke of Edinburgh had his odd club for males that became known as the Thursday Club. Ustinov. My dad hated Peter Ustinov as well for some strange reason. Could never really work that one out. David Niven, James Robertson Justice, Larry Adler, inventor of the harmonica.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Did he invent the harmonica?
Yes.
He invented it.
Richard, come in here.
I don't know. Is that what the book says?
He had the first hit tune at least with a harmonica. And then,
right, yeah.
And then
That's different than inventing it.
The day that Richard Torrey bought his harmonica was the same day that Larry Adler died. It was almost as if Adler was saying, "Oh no, I just give up now." I just completely give up. Don't you remember, Richard? We were going down to Hokum Bay, and you were like,
I remember, no.
yeah, and it came on the radio. You were blasting away, what do they call it, discordantly, on the harmonica, and it came over the radio that Larry Adler had finally packed it in. Pardon me, sorry. Richard Wagner, that was very boring. Didn't have very much interest to say about that. Then we went up.
Wagner? I didn't know Wagner was in Soho.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah, Richard Wagner. He stayed at an unknown address on Old Compton Street with his wife in 1839, recovering from a bad sea journey that he later claimed had inspired him to compose the opera The Flying Dutchman. He said that his English wasn't good enough to talk to people very well, and they had a dog called Robber that ran away and it caused him some distress. But the dog later returned, having, and he quotes here, wandered as far as Oxford Street in search of adventures. Then we went up Frith Street to Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, which, doesn't need much to say about it apart from Tommy was first ever performed there. That was its first ever live performance by The Who, Tommy. And then Jimi Hendrix did his last ever show there.
But I'm critical over that entry because, again, it's a jazz club, so why is he only focusing on rock stars that have played there? And also, that was the second venue. The original venue was somewhere else in Soho. It was in Soho, but it was very near. I'm pretty certain that it changed venue sometime.
I saw Nina Simone there in the 80s, and that was the same venue in the 80s.
I think it changed in the 60s or even, it starts in the 50s.
Well, Tommy was
I think
performed in 1969, and Hendrix's final performance was in 1970. So while you might be correct, you are probably correct in two of your things of why is he focusing on the rock, and that wasn't the original venue, but this was the venue where those two things happened. And then Richards disappeared probably for a pee or something. But now we get on to, which was one of my, I don't know if we're going to do it justice, was one of my favourite bits was the Bar Italia.
All good stuff there.
Well, John Logie Baird did the. He had arrived in Soho after being evicted from his previous premises, having caused an explosion due to his experiments. Baird constructed the first television equipment, and his new experiments in Soho culminated in October 1925 when he ran down a flight of stairs to grab an office boy, William Tainton, let's name him, hauled him upstairs and put him in front of the transmitter, and it was the first ever television broadcast. Baird had to bribe the boy 2 shillings and 6d, and he became the first televised person in history. The experiment was interrupted by angry local prostitutes who banged on Baird's door to complain that his strange-looking equipment was being used, they thought, to spy on them. And then, because I was thinking, Simon's gone, that's okay. I was thinking that would make a great horror story. But then when we were with Bonnie, she said that his experiments in television broadcast came out of his experiments with trying to talk to the undead or spirits on the other side. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
I had no idea. And I haven't. Sorry.
I met some psychics many years ago, and they were they're really fascinating couple, and they were fascinated by analog radio equipment, which would include television and radio. It had to be sort of valve analog equipment because there was all the static noises on shortwave and the weird. It was. They said that you could, I don't know, go into another dimension or anyway. I was really fascinated because I've got this shit here as well. But as you know, yeah, I was just really. So I didn't know about that thing about Baird, but all his stuff was mechanical. I think his television broadcasting and receiving equipment was all with some sort of weird drum that revolved.
It was quite basic. I know the actors had to wear like really stark, like black and white makeup because the picture was so bad.
Yeah, about 30 lines or something.
Yeah.
Well, they still do that now. Ghost hunters, they like just turn on, and even with the modern equipment, they just turn it on, and then you get all the like with you earlier with the fan going, all that extraneous noise, they claim that they can pull out. Oh no, they just said. No, if
Oh
you
yes,
listen
yes,
carefully,
yes.
if you listen carefully, you can just hear it saying "fuck me up the arse, Satan." You know, this kind of stuff.
No, but there's what they'd get like a tape recorder and put it on record and leave it in a house, like an empty house overnight, and then listen back to just like all these like kind of hisses and squeaks and stuff. And they say that they can hear like ghostly voices in all that, amongst all that kind of hissing.
Which
It's,
so go on, Daniel.
the couple I met who were, I mean, they were very believable. They were not trying to hoodwink me into believing something that I mean, I was a complete stranger to them as well, so a little bit reticent to tell me this. But they were talking about people's voices or broadcasts or they're sort of, I don't know, going around the ether that they could somehow access, that it's all there. You just need to harness it again. I don't know. I'm not explaining it very well. I'm not one of my most.
No, I think I get it, and Simon and I certainly know what you're talking about. These sorts of things. Maybe they were just fooling themselves, you know. I mean, or not fooling themselves. You know what I mean? But I mean, I don't tend to believe in these psychics and that. Not what you know, cold reading and all of that, where you have these leading questions and all the rest of it. That sort of thing.
Well, I had some. I was watching this thing the other day, and people were saying that water holds memories of conversations, and if you have like a sort of dripping tap in your bathroom or showers, like dripping, you can pick up like conversations that have been had in that room or like in the past.
Wow.
That's verging on a genuinely schizophrenic. Although Richard and I have a rule of no flushing the toilet after midnight, because
Why?
the gurgling in the pipes does sound like it's saying nasty things.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Do you have that, Daniel, as well? Do you get that, or you're just completely no?
I get quite a few weird noises here, but touch wood, I've never been freaked out. I mean, there's 72 flats here.
I shouted really loudly at a fly once, and it just died.
No, but the thing about that is you have to think about all the other times when you've shouted loudly at flies and they didn't die. See what I mean?
Well, this is. I mean,
Confirmation bias.
that was the one and only time I did it, and it worked.
Come on, we all shout at flies all the time.
No, I went right up to it, screaming, "Ah!"
Sonic Attack. Mozart, don't really care about him. Jon Snow, his residence, which was at number 53 Frith Street, but we come back to him for more deets, more interesting deets. Then he talks about Hazlitt's. I didn't really care about Hazlitt's. You know, that was a bit boring. Then we went to the Private Eye. I suppose it's an iconic.
No, that was good. About that when he died.
Oh, oh yes. Oh yes, you're right. Sorry. Well, Hazlitt's is
Yeah, when he was shoved under the carpet or something.
yeah, that's it. William Hazlitt, 1778 to 1830. Now that's not very. That's a mere 30 plus 22. That's a mere 52 years of age. He died.
The landlady was going to sell, let the room again.
Yes, he lived at number 6, Frith Street. He was widely regarded as England's greatest literary critic. And it's now where he lived is now the site of Hazlitt's, one of London's finest hotels. Blah blah blah. Blah blah. Hazlitt died there, and on his deathbed, his last words were, "Well, I've had a happy life." And then the moment his last death rattle went out, his landlady rolled him up in a carpet and put him behind the furniture in order to show his lodgings to new prospective clients on the very same fucking day.
What did he say?
He said, "Well, I've had a happy life."
Roll him up in the
It sounded
carpet.
like Mr. Grace from Grace Brothers.
Yeah.
Everybody sounded like that back then. They were cultured
You've
people.
all done really well.
Because
Quick, roll him up in the carpet.
they're all cultured back then. That's how cultured people spoke. Then there was Private Eye, you know, the iconic blue door, I suppose. They have their pub lunch. They have their boozy pub lunches down at the Coach and Horses, and then Trident Studios we went to, which is down St Anne's Court, number
I
17.
always wanted to find out where that was. It was always on my list, so I've now ticked that off.
Which one?
The recording
Trident.
studio.
Because I really liked disco years ago, I still do. And a load of sort of the French disco stuff was recorded there. Tons, all the Alec Costantino stuff and some of the Munich Machine stuff was recorded there. I mean, a lot of it was.
See, he doesn't mention any of that. He's very Mojo magazine, you know, like, oh, you know,
Lowest common denominator crap, you know, just going for that sort of shit.
Probably lived in East Dulwich and, you know,
Boring old bastard.
big Jeremy Corbyn fan.
Just a bit of a dick.
So anyway, it was opened by Barry and John Sheffield. And now, are they brothers or husband and wife? That's what I want to know. Trident Students, opened by Barry and John Sheffield. It was most famously used by the Beatles to record Hey Jude on the 31st of July 1968. They also recorded a number of songs from the White Album because of its, at the time, you know, top of the range 8-track recording equipment. I wish we could go back to fucking 4-track, to be honest with you, myself.
That's what I've got. I love it.
Well, in the world of the infinite, nothing fucking gets done. You know. So anyway, just sprinkle some fucking fairy dust on it, eh, Richie? Isn't it? That's what they say, the trogs.
What's it got to do with Hey Jude?
Because I'm saying I wish we could go back to a 4-track.
Oh,
Whereas in this
it
age,
was the worst. I was just thinking of that film yesterday. It's the worst film one of the worst films I've ever seen. Where they
Which
say,
one?
where they, Ed Sheeran, was it Ed Sheeran? No, come. They decide to change the name to Hey Jude instead of Hey Jude. Is it by Danny Boyle, that film? No wonder
Oh,
he
is the
died and is
that guy? I think
not
it's the guy
allowing him to.
oh, where the Indian guy comes back from the future.
Yeah, and he finds out all the songs, and they haven't actually ever happened.
Yeah, parallel timeline without the any Beatles. So he
That's
gets
right.
he has to change the name to Hey Jude instead
Yeah.
of Hey Jude.
I haven't.
It's an
bloody-
awful film.
I haven't watched it. I
No
have.
wonder
I don't want to watch
Johnny
it.
Rotten is
Sounds terrible.
suing to not allow him to make a film of Sex Pistols.
It was
Who's
crap.
suing? Who's suing?
They're going to court, aren't they? Johnny, the Steve Jones and the other
Johnny Rotten.
against Johnny Rotten, yeah, who doesn't want Danny Boyle to make the
Oh, about the
docu-
Sex Pistols.
Johnny Rotten is on the Steve Jones's side.
No.
Oh, you
three of
want?
them again.
Oh.
It looks really bad. I've seen the pictures. It looks really terrible.
Who do you think they'll get to play Sydney?
Doc Cotton.
Ziggy Stardust was done there by Bowie. Hunky Dory, the Boomtown Rats with their classic "I Don't Like Mondays." Elton John, he did Your Song. Lou Reed did Transformer there, which was produced by Bowie, as you all know. Genesis did A Trick of the Tail, and Queen did Bohemian Rhapsody. They later sold the studio. Current owners respect the bill, blah blah blah. You can visit. Then we get into a load of Karl Marx stuff. I mean, I don't know if I really want to go through all this Karl Marx stuff. It's not.
It's boring. It's
It's a,
boring. Boring.
yeah.
Boring.
He's a wanker.
Huh?
He's a wanker. Oh, you know, I mean, I've told a few friends, just really touch on this quickly. I think this is important.
Yeah.
But he had servants, and he gets, and I imagine she was very, very young, gets her pregnant, and he gets rid of her and gets another one in. That girl would have gone on the streets. I was chatting to my friend Nicola about this. You know, a young servant girl, pregnant by her, in quotes, master. She would be the one benefiting from that penny going down the chute. I mean, that they really are absolutely despised and demonized, and it would have been miserable for her and the kid. So fuck you, Karl Marx, and fuck you, communism. That's what I bloody say. And all those middle class bourgeois commies I know, driving their flashy cars and living in 4-bedroom houses in gated communities.
And not only that, one of the children died, and it had to go into a pauper's grave without a fucking box, because he wanted to have the servant. So the child had to be, you know, in a pauper's grave.
So was that a child that she had that was his?
It's one of Marx's children.
Okay.
And then as soon as Mrs. Marx came into her inheritance, they were out of there like a shot, up to somewhere nice and posh.
Yeah.
So that's all about quotes.
Like I said to you, the last boss I had was a communist, but with a lot of money, and a very fancy background, and relatives living in Knightsbridge. So I rest my case.
Isn't it good if they're rich and communists? I missed what you were saying earlier, maybe.
I think it's just really hypocritical, because they bang on about every person I know who's been a cop, well, with one exception actually, but most people I've rubbed shoulders with who claim to be communists or say they're communists live a very charmed, very comfortable life. And
So,
it's very much like putting up the
If
ladder.
I become communist, do you think that'll happen to me?
Well, you are
Well,
posh,
I don't think
but-
communist that necessarily leads to getting a load of money. Is all these people have had money from, you know, their parents had money. They've always been really comfortably off. So,
we are going to have to cut this. Let's not.
I know it's gonna have to be cut, yeah.
It's going to have to be cut.
Why don't you cut it and only put these bits in and discard the rest?
No, we won't cut it. We'll just bleep it. We'll just bleep the name. We'll just bleep the name. We're not going to cut it. We're not going to cut anything. We'll just bleep the name.
Just, I've heard the wonderful phrase "professional charity fund grabbers," and I think that sums that type up really well. And they're a breed. They are very, very, very clever. They're brilliant businessmen and women, but their product is, I mean, really lacking. I mean, really shoddy. But they know how to get the money.
I've always thought of her as a kind of female Cartman from South Park, you know.
Barbara Cartland.
No, Cartman from South Park. You must respect my authority. Anyway, whatever. So then we go to the colony room, which Colony room was another one of these drinking holes of the, you know, the great and the bad, you know, the damned and the magnificent, you know.
You were laughing when they wouldn't let me in.
You weren't let in. Simon wasn't let in.
No, I got to the top of the stairs. I tried to barge in, and it was Ian Board. He just said, "You have to be proposed and seconded to come in here." And then we couldn't get in. He just went, "Goodbye, children."
I mean, I was in there. I've been in there about 2, 3, maybe 4 times, and it was always rank and horrible. Actually, I think you were with us one time, Richard. It was after a Sadie Coles thing, and what's his name? The actor that you wanted to play you in our play.
Sure.
Jude Law was in there with his girlfriend. You know, do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
He was in the corner with his girlfriend, looking really shifty. Um,
Is
I
that
thought,
the night No Bra was there?
yeah, I think so. You know, so um,
Jude Law with Sadie Frost.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was a good night actually, but previous other times I've been in there, the atmosphere just stank. I mean, it was horrible, just a horrible atmosphere in there of like this kind of like thing of like, oh, everybody used to be bitchy in the past, so we'll continue being bitchy, but without any of the sort of gravitas. You know what I mean? Just being bitchy for bitchy's sake. It was just horrible.
Yeah, I think even if I'd gone in there, it wouldn't have been what I was looking for. It was like a kind of, it was like, it was like yeah, what you said, like people trying to keep the old spirit alive, but it was kind of dead.
Yeah.
Was it must have been the sort of tail end of
Well, I think
life.
it was really, I think the real kind of heyday was in the sort of 70s. I think
Yeah.
by the early 90s, it was really kind of everyone had sort of moved on.
I think one of you said Tracy Emin was there. I mean, the fact that Jude Law's there.
Yeah, well, that's what it had.
there,
It had this
that is-
kind of, it had this whole new sort of lease of life because of all the
YBA.
YBA. Yeah, so it had this kind of little last gasp of like popularity.
But the YBAs had no right to kind of adopt that kind of bitchy,
Yeah, no, they just did. It was
kind
just,
of attitude because they're all pampered
Yeah.
pups.
yeah. It was just because of Francis Bacon, really, because Damien Hirst was like obsessed with bacon, and so he just brought all of his mates there.
And then we go to another pub, the Bloody French House.
I've got to go because someone's coming round. I
Who?
didn't realise it got so long.
Who's coming round?
Day.
All right. Okay, Richie. Well, thank you for.
I'll leave you on.
All right.
I'll jump in I'll be in the shower.
Yeah, but we want.
All
We
right.
want to. All right. Thank you for coming, Richard. Thanks very much.
I
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Richard.
Bye.
On to the Bloody French House. I don't know. Do we want to talk about that? I mean, what's to say, really? Again, you know, all the drinkers and all the rest of it. You can
Well, I
only
think
get.
it's worth mentioning because it's one of the last of those sort of places that's actually still there.
Yes, because we didn't mention, but the Colony Club is no longer the Colony
Yeah, the
Club.
Colony Rooms is gone.
Yeah,
Half of these places are gone. That's one of the only ones which is still there.
yeah, yes, that's worth mentioning. You can only.
this guy's left out loads of clubs like Murray's and stuff that was in Soho for absolutely, I mean, years and years and years. It only closed it closed in the 70s. I know it's very long time ago now. But it was there from about 1919, I think it opened, if not earlier. A brilliant book. I got it because someone got hold of all the costumes. It was all pretty much naked showgirls. It's where Christine Keeler and Mandy Rice Davis met. So again, it's all tied in with Christine Keeler again,
Yeah.
and it was really very sort of risque, pretty much naked hostesses. But Gertrude Lawrence started there. She did cabaret there in about 1919. But again, it changed venues in Soho. I think in the 30s or 40s, it moved once, but it was really big. The book's fantastic.
What's it called?
Murray.
No, the name of the book.
Oh, it's called Murray's. It's called Murray's Cabaret Club.
Okay. About the French House, he says it's always attracted a diverse clientele ranging from local prostitutes. I don't think so much anymore, but I'll allow it. To one down and out who used to leave after last orders every night to return to a tree he lived in on Hampstead Heath.
Limey.
Today, he says the atmosphere is still interesting, and here he's showing his talons again. Although, as with many of Soho's iconic venues, the pub is perhaps trading a little on past glories. Simon,
That applies to the whole of Soho, really.
well, this definitely in the last 5 years. Simon's disappeared. Hopefully, he will come back. Then we went to the Admiral Duncan. We don't really need to talk about that. The bomb. Yeah.
Ripped out all the beautiful. When it became a gay pub, they gutted the amazing interior that was the original.
Oh,
All
really?
ended up in the ship, yeah. And it was like, what's the bottom of a ship? The
The hull.
hull. So it was like the ceiling was the hull. So it had a sort of slightly cathedral look to it. It was very unique inside, and it
Okay.
survived right up until the 90s, and then it was ripped out.
So it was just a straightforward straight pub up until the 90s, and then they fucking.
Yeah, yeah. And when they turned it into the gay pub, they closed it closed down as I'm sure there are plenty of Queens went there as well. They closed it down, gave it a big refurb because you remember Compton's. I mean, that's the second load of it. What we have now is the original interior was ripped out in the late 80s, I think, in Compton's. I remember it just, and then they made it all industrial looking in the early 90s. And then that wasn't popular, and they gutted it again and put this pastiche Victorian interior in. But none of that you see in Compton's is original. It's all, junk.
Well, Compton's. I can say two things about Compton's. No, I'll only say one. Um, that's where I saw Richie Manic from the Manic Street Preachers after he had supposedly committed suicide. And I know it was him because I saw him across the room, and I thought, you look just like Richie Manic. And then I looked at his arm, and it was scarred up like he'd cut that, with the four reel. It was scarred up like that. I didn't say anything. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I just was like, oh, okay. I just pretended I didn't know. He knew and I knew, but we didn't say nothing. You know what I mean? And have we got the energy to push on?
Roberto's come back, so can I have another 10 minutes?
You want to have a little break?
No.
Oh, you've got 10 minutes.
I'm going to piss off.
I don't know if we can do. Well, we've got the Two Eyes. That's where on Compton Street. That's the beginning of it's the first rock and roll bar. Then
My mum went. I mentioned to you.
yeah, your mum went. Yes. Then we got the church behind Richard. Kemp House. Kemp House, where the next most interesting thing is Jon Snow again, who was brought up earlier. The Jon Snow pub on the corner. The Jon Snow pub, which is on. Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. You'll find it, listeners. The Jon Snow pub. It's named. It's a pub. It's named after the teetotaler, ironically, Dr. Jon Snow, who made medical history when he proved the connection between infected water supplies and cholera. London suffered a number of devastating cholera outbreaks between 1831 and 1860, and in 1849 alone, 53,000 Londoners died of the disease. During one such outbreak in 1854, Snow realised the victims had one thing in common: their use of a water pump on Broad Street. He persuaded a sceptical medical establishment, many of who believed cholera was an airborne disease, of his concerns, and the handle of the pump was removed. Almost immediately the epidemic abated, thus proving his case. That's great, isn't it? I like that. That's really wonderful.
One of us said, wasn't me, one of you guys said about, I never noticed the pump before. Then you read a bit more that it had only been stuck there recently.
Well, it's a replica, yes, but we didn't want to mention that. Then we went to we followed the map to reach Marshall Street. Then we bore right. On the right hand side was a dismal tower block, and and this tower block stands on the site of the birthplace of the poet and visionary artist William Blake. His parents ran a tight shop on 27 Broad Street, and as a 4-year-old, William believed he saw a vision of God's face pressed against his bedroom window. And throughout his life, I don't know what the right word to say, I'll say suffered. He suffered from visions throughout his whole life, didn't he? Old Blakey. And like HP. You didn't know that? Dude, he was always having visions. And like H.P. Lovecraft, had no success during his actual lifetime. Yeah.
Oh,
Or very, very limited success. Very limited. Yeah. Yeah.
This is William Blake.
Pardon me?
This is William Blake.
Yes,
Yeah.
Blake of Tiger
No, it's
Tiger
Blakey.
Shining
It's
Bright.
Blakey. You know Blakey from on the buses.
Oh, I know.
Get
Simon,
your butler.
Olive. Well, friends with Olive.
Simon busting out a joke there at the end, coming in at the end with a big joke. So that was, yeah. Again, the author being a dismal tower block. It just proves that he's not done the knowledge in the recent times. Because we were there, and it's very posh outside, isn't it? Then we did Carnaby Street. Now that was good. Carnaby Street was set up by. It started because an entrepreneur called John Stephen opened a boutique here in 1958, and he's gone to get them, or he's.
No, I'm here. I just had a lamp on.
And you say you have a couple of his suits, original suits by John Stephen.
I've got one suit, and I've got a really beautiful brown velvet jacket, a very sort of early mod type of one that's still in very wearable condition, with a label in as well.
And you won't admit whether or not you still fit in them.
No, I admitted that I can't fit in it. I mean, my stomach is just, it's atrocious.
So are they worth a bit of money then? They are.
Possibly, and I've got a load of Katie Stevens shirts, which are really. You can see Westwood pinched her. The cut
Who's Katie Stevens?
Katy. That's how she spelled it. That was his ex-wife. So she did stuff after he died. She sort of continued with it. She did loads of tailoring. So loads of people I knew on the mod scene donkeys years ago used to go and get stuff made by her.
All right, let's speed on. Then there was this is very interesting. Thank you. It'd be nice if you could take a photo of them and send me that photo. Then I can put it up at this point in the. You don't have to be wearing them, but I can put them up at this point in the pod. So anyway, then Antonio Cannelloni, the Italian painter. We went past that.
Canaletto. Cannelloni.
Yeah, Antonio Lasagna. Then we went to Golden Square, where they think that might have been named after the gelding golden of the castration of the horses. Then we went to Our Lady of Assumption, the church, which was interesting in the end. I thought it might be a boring diversion, but it was interesting in the end to hear about how crazy the riots were back then. Because there was the anti-Catholic Gordon riots of 1780. The church was broken into, and they fucking ran in and stole all the gold. And then we went to my favourite bit of all, Great Pulteney Street, John William Polidori. He was Byron's drug dealer, basically, and on the same night that they wrote, or they came up with Frankenstein, he came up with The Vampire, which was, somebody asked me, have you read it? And I said, yes, I have read it. It's not, and I did like it, but it's not about the quality of the writing or the narrative. It's about the idea, the switch, the change that has created this modern myth that will last throughout time. Because previously to that, as I said, vampires were just these hairy, uncouth, shambling beasts, and he turned them into these sort of Byronic figures that we have now. And that myth, there's a modern myth that will, echo throughout time. And poor old Polidori he got the story published. And then he was mocked in society, not only by society, but by Byron himself, who I think he was partly under Byron's spell, and all of that. Bloody killed himself in the same house, 38 Great Pulteney Street, where he was born, by drinking fucking prussic acid. And I think it's very sad. He was only 26, and it must have been a horrible, horrible way to go, with no knowledge. 26, with no knowledge of the massive modern myth that he created, that's gonna go on forever and ever for as long as there's an earth, and probably even
why
did that.
He must have had some idea how hideous his death would be by drinking this acid. Surely there was what on earth was going on with him to make him do that? It would have been an agony.
I suspect he was kind of in love with Byron. I don't want to say gay love, but certainly under his spell, like, and then to be rejected, cast aside by not only him and society, to have nobody. I don't know what to say. Very, very sad. I have cried about it. I did. I shed some tears for the poor guy.
Punishing himself by doing that.
And it's a bit. The next thing is only Marks again, where they had the. Let's not. Well, next thing was the Red Lion pub, where Marx, once again, they were up there trying to work out the Communist Manifesto, and they had a bitter 10-day debate about pronouns ensued. Well, it didn't, but they were talking about who's going to write the Communist Manifesto, and basically Marx and Engels won. Prussian spies were there, and people claimed that they were trying to assassinate Queen Victoria, but that didn't happen. And that's it really. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for doing this again. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's harder, we got there.
Well, I've got a definite new load of knowledge about that particular area. So doing that's like the third time being over all that.
Yes, well, as I said on the walk, after doing it twice, I never want to do it again. But
but it's up here now forever.
Yeah.
We're going to do Bermondsey next.
Bermondsey Rotherhithe, yes. I'm trying to arrange it to